We should end this story. Dakota Johnson broke Jamie Dornan's heart with just a text message in the middle of the night. Text at 4:12 a.m. Dakota Johnson stared at her phone screen, her fingers shaking. Her apartment was still dark, the only light from the small nightlight illuminating her exhausted face after a long night of crying. The message she was about to send wasn't just the end of a story. It was the end of a part of her heart. She typed, "We should end this story. We should end this story." She stared at it for a long time. Her hands were cold. Part of her wanted to delete it. The other part, the part torn by fear, guilt, and grief, knew she had to send it. She pressed send. She felt like she was falling off a cliff. Jamie's first reaction. On the other side of the city, Jamie Dornan had just gotten an hour of sleep after the most intense confrontation of his life. The apartment was quiet, but his mind was in chaos, reeling from what had just happened. Dakota crying. The kiss. The other man appearing. Dakota telling him to leave. Jamie knew things were spiraling out of control, but he still held on to a glimmer of hope. That their feelings for each other couldn't just disappear with a few hurtful words. The phone rang. Jamie reached for it. When he read the message, his heart stopped. We should end this story. He shot up from the bed, as if someone had stabbed him in the chest. No, Dakota, it's not like that, he whispered, his voice breaking. Jamie called again. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. No answer. He texted. Don't do this, please answer me. No response. Jamie felt like her world had just exploded for the second time in less than 24 hours. Dakota locked her phone and burst into tears. After sending the message, Dakota threw her phone on the chair, ran into the bathroom, and closed the door. Hot water poured from the shower, but it did nothing to ease the guilt that was gripping her. She sobbed, clutching the sink. I can't do this anymore. Jamie, I can't. She looked in the mirror. Her face was red from crying. Her eyes were dark. A woman was losing herself to a love that wasn't supposed to exist. Dakota asked herself, if I really loved you, why did I do this? But the answer hurt her more. Because that love was destroying both of their lives. Jamie drove to Dakota's house, but stopped. Jamie didn't accept the text. She couldn't. He grabbed his keys and headed down to the garage. It was almost dawn, the night was about to give way to a faint streak of light on the horizon. He drove like crazy to Dakota's apartment. The streetlights were dim. The cold air seeped into his body. His fingers tightened on the steering wheel until they turned white. When he reached Dakota's building, he stopped. Parked the car on the curb. But he didn't get in. Jamie leaned his head against the steering wheel, his eyes red. I ruined everything, or did you? He said quietly, as if to himself. But he knew the truth. They both took things too far. He didn't want to ruin anything else by showing up unannounced. Jamie texted back. Can we talk? Don't end us like this. Again no reply. He sighed, pained. If you push me away because you're scared, don't. Dakota, don't. But Dakota didn't read the message. The phone was still on silent in the living room. Jamie drove away, heartbroken. Dakota confided in the only person she trusted. Around 7 a.m., Dakota arrived at her mother's house, Melanie Griffith. Her mother opened the door, startled to see her daughter standing in front of the house, no makeup on, her eyes red and swollen. Dakota, what happened? Dakota hugged her mother tightly, feeling small for the first time in years. They're right, Mom, love at the wrong time is the cruelest thing. Melanie reached out and stroked her hair. It's Jamie, right? Dakota nodded, then burst into tears like a child. I love him, but I can't ruin his life. Melanie sighed. She had known this all along. From the way Dakota's eyes lit up whenever Jamie was mentioned. From the way she tried desperately to hide her emotions. Dakota, Melanie said softly, you have the right to love, but you also have the right to leave if it hurts you. Dakota held her mother's hand, trembling. I told Jamie that I wanted to end this story. And you think that's the right thing to do? Dakota was silent for a long time. Finally, she said in a voice almost inaudible. No, but it's the only thing that can save us both. Jamie alone in the hotel. After leaving Dakota's house without knocking, Jamie checked into a small hotel room in Beverly Hills to avoid prying eyes, even his own home. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat. He just sat on the floor, his back against the wall, staring at his phone. No texts. No calls. Nothing. The only thing in his inbox was the message that broke him down. We should end this story. Jamie whispered. Why, Dakota? After everything we said, everything we felt? Loneliness covered him like a cold blanket. No one knew where he was. No one knew how much pain he was in. And the most bitter thing, Dakota was trying to forget him. When Dakota's heart convinced her mind, but couldn't deceive herself. That afternoon, Dakota returned home. She saw 5 texts and 3 missed calls from Jamie. She didn't dare open the text. She just looked at the notification. She was afraid that if she saw just one line from him, she would weaken and run to him. Dakota sat down on the chair, her hand on her heart. No, Dakota, you have to be strong. But when her eyes fell on the shirt Jamie had left behind for the last filming, the shirt she kept but never had the courage to return, she burst into tears. She forced herself to repeat. We should end this story. We should end this story. We should end this story. She repeated until her throat was hoarse. But her heart said, I don't want to end it. Jamie sent the final message, the one that shook everything. That evening, when Jamie realized Dakota had read some of the messages but still hadn't responded, he sent a long message, the one he knew could save them, or destroy them completely. The message read, if you want to end it because you're afraid of hurting someone, say it. But if you want to end it because you think it'll be okay without you, you're wrong. Dakota, I can't forget you. Not now, not after what we've been through. If this story has to end, at least let it end when we've said it all. Dakota read the message. Her eyes filled with tears. She clutched the phone, her whole body shaking. Jamie was right. She had tried to end it out of fear, not because she wanted to. She typed a short text, her hands shaking. Jamie, please stop. Then added, I can't survive this. I can't live if this continues. She deleted. Typed again. Delete again. Finally, she texted, I'm sorry. The text was short, cruel, cold, but it was Dakota's way of defending herself. Jamie receives, I'm sorry, and knows everything has changed forever. When Jamie receives those 2 words, he freezes. I'm sorry. 2 words that can mean many things. Sorry for loving you. Sorry for not being strong enough. Sorry for pushing you away. Sorry this can't continue. Sorry that your heart is broken like mine. But the clearest meaning. I'm leaving. Jamie sits down on the bed, her face buried in her hands. Dakota, don't do this. His voice is hoarse, more painful than any pain he's ever felt. He writes back. If this is goodbye, at least say it with your voice. Not a text. Dakota looks at the message. She puts the phone to her ear, about to call him. But her hand freezes. She put the phone down, closed her eyes, tears rolling down. Finally, she texted. Goodbye, Jamie. Jamie broke down, but didn't give up. When Jamie read those 2 words, he couldn't breathe for a few seconds. He fell to the floor, clutching the phone as if it were his heart. No, Dakota, you don't understand. I can't let you go. But that text, it was the end. It was a story that ended not with a scream, but with a ragged breath. Jamie stared at the word goodbye, feeling the world fall away from her feet. Dakota, after the last text, felt empty for the first time. Dakota threw the phone on the sofa and hugged her knees. She curled up as if to disappear. He'll hate me. He'll hurt. But if this story continues, we'll all hurt 100 times more. Dakota buried her face in her hands and cried. I'm sorry, Jamie. But that pain didn't make her strong. It only left a wound that would never heal. For a story that could never truly end. They sat alone in the dark, on opposite sides of Los Angeles. 2 hearts in love. 2 people afraid. 2 souls suffocated by pain. The text message said, we should end this story. But they both knew. This story was never truly over. They just didn't have the courage to continue. Not now. But someday, when the pain subsided, when their courage was greater than their fear, one of them would text back. And the story would begin again.